I first met Max Allan Collins at the first Milwaukee VoucherCon in 1981. He was so excited to be there. I mean, he's like a kid in a candy store, I think, because he was going to be there to meet and interview his hero, if I can use that term, Mickey Spillane. Spillane was the guest of honor at that VoucherCon, and Max was there for that specific purpose. And sitting there in the audience, listening to both of them, listening to Max interview Mickey talking to Max, I really think not a single person in that room had any idea that they were watching two future grandmasters at work, and that we were privileged to be there to hear that sort of interview. Mickey received his grandmaster in 1995, and Max here tonight, of course. But by that time, Max was already well on his way toward this honor. He started early, which is a good way to do it. It was 50 years ago this year, at age 19, please don't do the math, okay, that he submitted his first full-length novel, More in the Living, to gold medal. They didn't buy it, but the editor was so impressed with that book that he later became Max's agent. While he was still in college, he completed the Port City trilogy, 3 standalone crime novels that would eventually spawn his first 3 series, Nolan, Quarry, and Mallory. But it was 2 years after this VoucherCon that he began his most impressive body of work with the creation of Nathan Heller, a crooked Chicago cop who was turned mostly honest private investigator. True Detective, the first novel in this series, seamlessly blended fact and fiction, mainly rooted in real events, in speculations as to the possible reasons behind the assassination of Chicago Mayor Anton Cermak. It was PWA's it won PWA's Shamus Award for Best Novel. The Heller novels, of course, continue today, and it is still one of the finest and most complex private eye series that has ever been written. Meticulously researched, always intriguing, and often controversial, it is Max's single most significant contribution to the field. But for me to stand here and list all of Max's achievements in the mystery field would take all night. But he has excelled in everything that he has tried out. Crime fiction, you ask, in addition to many other series and standalone novels, perhaps most significantly, he has completed a number of previously unpublished Mickey Spillane Mike Hammer novels from partial manuscripts that Spillane left specifically to Max for the express purpose of completing them. One grandmaster trusting another future grandmaster with his precious work. I'm sure Mickey is looking down tonight and smiling. How about comics? Max was Chester Gould's hand-picked successor for the Dick Tracy comic strip, which Max wrote for 15 years. He wrote the graphic novel Road to Perdition, which was the basis for the Tom Hanks-Paul Newman film. He created Ms. Tree, which to this day is still the longest-running private eye comic book series. Max has also written a Batman comic book and others as well. What about movies? He has written and directed feature films and documentaries. Has he done anything with plays? Well, he's written the Edgar-nominated play Eliot Ness, An Untouchable Life. Critical biographical work, you ask? He's written at least a dozen nonfiction books on a variety of topics, including 2 Edgar-nominated books and 1 Anthony winner. Can he write short stories? Yes, he can. More than I had time to count, and frankly, I had a lot of time, but I couldn't count them all. And in those short stories, 2 Edgar nominations. Is he recognized in the mystery field? He has 22 Shamus Award nominations, 3 wins, and is the recipient of the Private Eye Writers of America's Lifetime Achievement Award, the Eye. 3 Anthony nominations with 1 win, the Life Achievement Award from the Historical Mystery Appreciation Society. I don't know if the man ever sleeps, all right? But I think his secret is that he doesn't always do all of this alone. At his side is his wife, the talented and charming Barbara, who is here tonight as well, with whom he writes the Trash and Treasure series, one of which won Romantic Times Best Humorous Mystery Novel. From hard-boiled to humorous and everything in between, Max Allan Collins has mastered every aspect of the mystery field. Someone asked me how MWA chose him for this honor, and I didn't have to hesitate. I simply quoted Mike Hammer. "It was easy," I said. Ladies and gentlemen, I am privileged and honored to present the 2017 Grand Master Award to my friend Max Allan Collins.
Would you hold on to that for me?
Sure, I'll store it for you.
I could listen to this Ted Hurdle talk all night. He's something. I have to admit, I was a little afraid this might be an intervention to keep me from writing quite so much. I'm going to ask your patience as I thank a few people. I can't thank everybody who's ever published me, nor can I scold those who stopped publishing me. But I can thank everybody who bought a book in this room, whether it was to publish it or just to read it. Thank you very much for that. I have some specific people I'm working with right now I'd like to thank with your patience. I would like to, well, first of all, before we do that, I have to thank Barbara Collins, who's been my cohort and collaborator. Barb, stand up, would you please? Oh, come on, stand up. This beautiful woman and I have been going together since 1966. It's true. And this beautiful man, Dominic Gable, is my other literary cohort. He's been my agent. It's not been as long as I've been with Barb. It's only been 35 years with Dominic. I'd like to assure the editors in the room he is just as mean to me as he is to you. I would like to mention, well, Kensington Books hosted us tonight, and Michael Hamilton, my editor there, on the Barbara Allan books. I'm Allan, she's Barbara. The Antiques books, thank you, Michael. I'd like to mention Claire Eddy at Forge Books, and Forge Books, because they started publishing new Nate Heller books, and that meant a lot to me after about a 10-year layoff. Thank you, Claire. I'd like to thank editor-publisher Charles R. Dye. Charles gave my Quarry series, created in 1973, a new home about 10 years ago that only led to a TV series. So, of course, I am one of the few writers who was writing a series that began as contemporary and is now historical, as is the author. I would like to thank Liz Pearson, and I'd like to thank Gracie Doyle of Thomas & Mercer, who brought all of the Nate Heller books back out. Thank you very much, and some other new things. So thank you guys at Thomas & Mercer. Well, I don't think he's here, but I'd like to thank Titan publisher Nick Landau and my editor Miranda Jewis for giving the Mike Hammer series a new home. And finally, I'd like to thank, this is not the end of the speech, but it's just the end of the thank yous, so brace yourself. I'm a novelist, okay? I want to thank Otto Penzler, who championed the Spillane Collins posthumous collaborations and recently published a Mike Hammer short story collection, the first ever, at Mysterious Press. So, as Ted mentioned, I had a mentor in Mickey Spillane, a Grand Master. I also had a mentor in Don Westlake at the beginning of my career. And Mickey once said to me, as typical writing advice from him, was, now when you sit down at the typewriter, which dates us both, be sure to take your wallet out of your back pocket when you sit down. So, Mickey, I think your wallet is fatter than my wallet. Don, one time, when I sold my first novel, which was a shameless imitation of his work, he was the kind of man he was that he said, "Oh no, it's nothing like that," and gave a complete blessing even when the publisher asked for a couple more books in the series. They were wonderful men, and they gave me a lot more than that. There was a third mentor, and that's who I'd like to talk to you just very briefly about, a guy named Richard Yates, not a mystery writer. You may be familiar with him, probably you are. He was a fine mainstream writer. He wrote Revolutionary Road, 11 Kinds of Loneliness. And this goes back to the Iowa Writers Workshop. Now, I've lived in Muscatine, Iowa, a little town in Iowa for forever. My wife and I still live there. And I commuted to Iowa City to the University of Iowa. And they had one section of the Writers Workshop for undergraduates. It's mostly a graduate program. I was very confident. I mean, I knew this workshop was in my backyard, and I'd been writing all through junior high and high school. I'd been sending books out unsuccessfully, but I'd been sending books out. I never doubted I could get in. So I looked up, before enrollment, I looked up Richard Yates in his office. He was a kind of dour guy. He kind of looked like John Brown, the abolitionist. A little forbidding, but he was very kind. But I found him in his office, and he was kind of straightening things up to get ready for the school year. And I came in, just bounded in with all this enthusiasm. I had a novel in my hands, and I said, you know, I've been working to be a mystery writer and be a suspense writer, and, you know, Dashiell Hammett, Raymond Chandler, James M. Cain. I knew not to mention Mickey Spillane. And so I'm just full of enthusiasm. And he takes the book, and he says, I'll look at this. He says, I cannot hold out any hope for you for being in this class, because we're serious writers here at the University of Iowa Writers Workshop. And this is for serious writers who want to write serious fiction. This is not what we do here. I'll look at it, but I don't want to give you any false hope. I went home, as you might imagine, with my tail tucked between my legs. In fact, I even felt a cliche. So when I got home, Barb was right there with me, but I was devastated. I'd been working toward this all these years. A couple days later, the phone rang, and Barb said, "Is that Richard Yates?" And he was on the phone. He said, "Mr. Collins, I owe you an apology." He said, "I read your book, and it's clear you're serious about what you're doing, that you're a serious writer, and I would be honored to have you in the class." Obviously, I was blown away. Then he said something that I still think about. He said, "My wife and I every week watch the Carol Burnett show. You know, not W.R. Burnett, Carol Burnett." He said, "And we laugh and we love it. We have a wonderful, wonderful time. And I thought of your book." So I'm picturing, in the tradition of Hammett, Chandler, and Carol Burnett, And he said, "And it occurred to me that there was nothing wrong with being an entertainer." And I think that's good advice for everybody in this room. Thank you very much.